Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis just turned 2 years old, and what's really a better way to celebrate that than introducing Advent Children's content into the game? And this is a bit of a nice mix-up, especially since we've mostly been getting more original story content in Ever Crisis, and beyond a handful of updates for Final Fantasy VII and Crisis Core, we haven't really gotten any of the legacy compilation stuff. So it was really exciting to see this brand new render of Advent Children, Cloud and Sephiroth, and the advertising. But what appeared at first glance to be an awesome second anniversary celebration for Ever Crisis quickly turned into me just quietly wondering if Ever Crisis is gonna really deliver on its promises. Is Ever Crisis having an identity crisis, possibly? Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis was announced for mobile devices back in February of 2021. It was intended to be an alternate retelling of Final Fantasy VII, unlike that of the remake trilogy. Instead of fully traversable 3D areas and action RPG combat, Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis promised a truer to the original reimagining, with fixed camera angle areas and combat that was much closer to the more traditional ATB battle system. And this was already exciting enough for fans who might have been disappointed, put off, or not really looking for what the remake trilogy was trying to accomplish. So this seemed like the perfect way to bring in all those other fans who wanted a truer to the original Final Fantasy VII remake. And really the best part about this early announcement of the game was that supposedly this was supposed to have the entire compilation of Final Fantasy VII. That would mean not only would we be getting the original Final Fantasy VII retold, but all of its companion pieces. So if this was really the case, that means not only would we be getting the original Final Fantasy VII reimagined in a fashion that was much closer to that original PlayStation 1 game, but we would also see awesome, almost like demakes of games like Crisis Core and Dirge of Cerberus. And really, if that wasn't already cool enough, that means we would be seeing things like Advent Children remade in this style, right? Or we could even get Before Crisis. We never got that. We never got that episodic phone game. So really, Ever Crisis was shaping up to be what could have been one of the ultimate ways to experience Final Fantasy VII. 2 years later, we have tons of extra content that have added to the lore of Final Fantasy VII. However, we haven't even gone all the way through the original game's storyline and have only done a chunk of Crisis Core. Beyond that, we've gotten some of the first Soldier storylines and even continuations for that. And that's all fine and good, but really my main question here has been, what's the holdup with the rest of the compilation? Like, Noah and I have really talked about how good some of this new FF7 content is, especially in the first Soldier. However, where's Dirge of Cerberus? We have another Under the Plate episode discussing how we would like to see that remastered, but we're not even getting that in Ever Crisis. And we've really had theories before that some of the release schedule for Ever Crisis is halted in order to give some breathing room for other projects, so maybe, just maybe, things like the continuation of the original FF7 plot might not happen until Part 3, and etc. But that doesn't really explain why we haven't been getting regular updates for the old Final Fantasy VII content. However, I'm not really sure about Ever Crisis anymore. I don't know if I can definitively say what I believe its direction for the future is. So recently we received Final Fantasy VII Advent Children Ever Crisis Edition. And the way that Advent Children has been implemented into Ever Crisis is honestly the reason that I'm here making this video. I'm not gonna really sit here and pretend that Ever Crisis is supposed to be some great deliverer of a remake of Final Fantasy VII. At the end of the day, it is a gacha game that really survives off of fan service and ultimately tells a fairly abridged version of Final Fantasy VII, with some neat details thrown in from some side material like events. But that's at least something. That's some substance towards Final Fantasy VII as an ongoing and important universe. But Final Fantasy VII Advent Children Ever Crisis Edition fails utterly to deliver upon this. Advent Children isn't remade whatsoever here. There's no fixed camera angle areas to explore, you don't get to see the City of Edge, you don't get to see literally anything in the chibi style of Ever Crisis. There's only one battle, and it's only against Bahamut Sin. You don't even get to fight the Sephiroth remnants, and they reuse the same battle as filler between actual movie clips of Advent Children. And it's really a shame that Advent Children isn't getting the love it deserves, because so far we have gotten Crisis Core, original FF7, and lots of original storytelling redone in this style. And it's sad to see Advent Children get snuffed so hard when it has importance to Rebirth and also had reruns in theaters for the lead up of the release of Rebirth. Some fans really might ultimately just brush this off because at the end of the day, Advent Children is a movie that you can go watch, you can go on Amazon, buy it on Blu-ray, you can rent it on YouTube. It's a movie that's been around. It's even on PSP UMD. But all of this feels so wrong because it feels like it was the opposite of the point of Ever Crisis. If I wanted to go play the very original Final Fantasy VII on PlayStation 1, I can go boot it up or buy one of the ports. If I want to go watch Advent Children, I can just throw the Blu-ray into my PS5. However, having such a half-hearted event for Advent Children instead of an actual story update is truly just disheartening. It makes me worry about the future quality of Ever Crisis in some ways, and I also just think Advent Children really deserved better than what it got. And really, it's got pretty much nothing out of this EC edition. It's more or less just an abridged version of Advent Children. There's even scenes of complete, but really, I find that this serves little purpose, especially if the runtime of this is probably like half of the original cut of Advent Children. And it's really a shame, but I kind of thought that maybe they would hide like some secret whatevers like in the translation, like they maybe retranslated it, but that's kind of expecting too much, especially from this event. Square reused the script on like every Pixel remaster, Crisis Core reunion. It's not shocking that the script is reused here. It's just word for word besides some punctuation from what I could see. And that's just so disappointing. There's really nothing extra here. And the only battle is just against Bahamut Sin. You can sit, just like I said earlier, you can sit there and watch a cutscene with Kadaj, Yazoo, and Laws, and oh, you just fight Bahamut Sin like 5-6 times throughout the entire event. Why have a bunch of extra fights? It's not like that movie has really memorable fight scenes or anything. That's not one of the best parts of the movie. So absolutely nothing has been added to Advent Children as an experience here. The only thing that might have changed is this could just be a difference between the TV screen and my phone screen for viewing Advent Children. But I think the color grade is slightly different in EC Edition. Just slightly different. Either that or it's because my phone's an OLED screen instead. It's one of those two, but I want to give this event just a little bit of rope. And really, this has left a terrible taste in my mouth in regards to Ever Crisis. Up to now, we have gotten like extra events that are awesome. We've gotten the stuff from the First Soldier that Noah and I have made videos on prior, and there's great stuff in Ever Crisis, but I really feel like it's starting to fail on delivering the experience that it teased or set up all the way back in 2021. And you can kind of even see some of this backpedaling in 2023 near launch. When the game was being teased, there was even official account posts talking about how it was going to be the entire compilation. But then as we got closer to the actual release of the game a couple years later, some of the interview stuff implied that they might not have everything. To be fair, they were vague and said that they just can't really talk about any of the future content they have planned for the game. But really, we're not going to find out anything of note just from that, because it's just conflicting information, and at best, the 2023 interview stuff might just be to cover up plans. Worst case, I think they might not end up doing Before Crisis. And if we do see some type of inclusion of Before Crisis, I think it'll just be a few limited run events similar to this new event with Glenn that kind of goes into the stuff that happens somewhat in between parts of the First Soldier about when, Glenn and his team actually defected from Shinra and everything. And really, I just think we might end up getting very minute inclusions for things like that. We'll probably see Dirge of Cerberus included, and things like Crisis Core and FF7 will be wrapped up with a bit more time, but really, I don't think the entire compilation, especially if we're getting into some of the nitty gritty, like possibly even books. And that was the awesome thing about Ever Crisis, is that it could have included everything of the compilation of Final Fantasy VII. And instead, I think they're going to kind of go like the easier route. That was kind of obvious from the beginning. We obviously don't have any type of overworld stuff. There's not like real exploration. The dungeons are usually pretty small, and a lot of this is done in favor of it being a mobile title. But it was still interesting to see Final Fantasy VII's universe put through this smaller form, bite-sized lens. And I think the Advent Children event is really kind of ruining the intent and goodwill that Ever Crisis has built up, and it truly has lowered my expectations for this game's future beyond just fan service and the new stuff that they've been writing. But really, beyond that, I'm not sure that you should ever go to Ever Crisis to get a retelling of Final Fantasy VII anymore, because I honestly am convinced that that's not the point of this game anymore. I don't think the point of the game is to offer a true reimagining of Final Fantasy VII, and I'm really starting to believe that it's kind of shifted gears to wanting to focus more on telling new stories within the compilation. Because I just don't find that the way that they're upkeeping all of the classic titles in the compilation in Ever Crisis is up to snuff anymore. That's gonna do it for today's episode. Be sure to drop a like if you enjoyed yourself. Maybe even subscribe. While I quite enjoy Ever Crisis, I do kinda have some concern on how they're gonna deliver future content. But hey, leave a comment. Let me know if you agree or disagree, or if you are perfectly satisfied with how they handled Advent Children. Stay tuned right here at Final Weapon for more Under the Plate, gaming news, reviews, and so much more. Catch you later.